So I noticed something the other day when I was going through my YouTube homepage thinking about how Rachel Zegler's face probably takes up about 80% of every thumbnail on the entire website now. I just thought that what this platform doesn't have enough of is videos complaining about Disney live-action remakes. I think we're kind of at a point where we're all feeling like we're kind of just stuck in like this cycle of the same shit coming out over and over again. I swear to God, they revive an old show every single time I check Twitter. And like, look at your choices at the box office this month being between a movie from 2002 but worse or a movie from 2010 but worse. And I totally get it, okay? If you're gonna spend like $75 of your paycheck on a single movie ticket nowadays, it may as well be for one where you can like point at the screen the whole time. But like, look at the difference every time Pixar puts out a sequel that makes $50 billion versus every new movie they put out in the last 5 years that everyone leaves on red.
Stop complaining that Disney doesn't make original stories if you don't show up to movie theaters and support them in the first place. Who said that? Oh my gosh. I thought I was the only one in my car.
We're only halfway into this year, and there's been like a shit ton of new stuff that's come out. It's just all collectively made less money than Lilo and Stitch just did. They make plenty of new shit. It's just that there's no world where it's ever going to make as much money as a company with an inbuilt audience that slavishly consumes everything they put out because it reminds them of a much better time when they didn't have to pay taxes. Because ever since Alice in Wonderland made absolute bank over a decade ago, Disney has been speedrunning do-overs of their entire library of movies. They made like 20 of these things in only 10 years, and I don't even think people know most of them exist because they shat half of them out on Disney+. And I think at first people were kind of pumped about seeing these old-ass movies again. Like, Cinderella was the first one to be just like a straight remake of the original, and it had really big shoes to fill because it was never going to be as good as the Cinderella story. But it's taken 10 years and 25 remakes later for people to finally get sick of these, with The Little Mermaid and Snow White copping the most backlash and diminishing returns out of any of them. I'm sure for absolutely no other underlying reason as to why people didn't like those two specifically. I mean, Snow White was getting digitally crucified way before it even came out for way dumber reasons than the horrible CGI dwarves and Gal Gadot channeling the acting ability of an AI chatbot. All because Rachel Zegler had the audacity to say that the movie where an 18-year-old makes out with a comatose minor might be a little outdated. But it almost looked like we were finally free of getting 12 remakes a year until Lilo and Stitch just made $900 million.
Oh, we were right there, man!
So like, why do we keep blaming Disney for continuing to shit these out when almost every remake conjures up an army of middle-aged women and small children to storm the theaters? Like, oh no, why would Disney make another Toy Story when the last one only made $1 billion? And come on, let's not pretend like Disney whoring out their classic movies is a new thing, okay? Like with those cheap-ass straight-to-DVD sequels and stage shows that are holding onto movies they made 20 years ago like they're Tom Felton. They're gonna stop making them when people stop seeing them, okay? We saw that with how they freaked the fuck out when Snow White was outgrossed by the YouTube videos bitching about it and immediately nuked their next 15 years of remakes. But now that Lilo and Stitch just funded their company for the next 20 years, I can't tell you how afraid I am that I know I'm going to be seeing a live-action Judy Hopps within my lifetime. And I gotta be real, okay? I'm not the target audience for these. I was not breaking down crying during every single one of the songs in the 2016 Beauty and the Beast for the same reason that everyone else was. I don't think I like movies like The Lion King as much as a normal person does, but it's still so much more fun to watch than these 2-hour beige slogs that look like the school play versions of Disney movies. I don't really care that they race swap their princesses because it's not the fact that they changed stuff that's the problem, it's the fact that the stuff they did change is not very good. They've cannibalized so much of their library so quickly that they're starting to touch the shit that I grew up on now, like with my boys How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Bitch, because both of these take pretty different approaches to doing a remake, and both of them are kinda lame. I think the OG Lilo and Stitch is like one of the best Disney movies ever made for lots of reasons, and one of them is because they don't sing. And in the remake, they did change stuff so it's not completely identical. The problem is that all of it sucks ass. In the original movie, Stitch was made by some guy called Jumbo, who follows him down to Earth with drag queen icon Pleakley until the villain of the movie, Gantu, shows up to commit terrorist acts on Hawaii. But in the remake, Gantu is fucking dead, and they gave his role to Jumbo, who for some reason they decided that without his accent should sound like an r/atheism mod.
That's Mom and Papa's room.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Which, I mean, sure, it's not like Gantu was the most important character in the movie, but then they split the role of Lilo's social worker, Cobra Bubbles, into two characters, because as they said in the most annoying interview I've read in my entire life, it was because they thought that this guy working with kids was too unrealistic in a movie about fucking talking aliens from space. And so now he just doesn't have a reason to be there anymore because they took away his entire role. Like, the only reason he's in the movie is because it was like that in the original, when arguably he has less of a reason to exist in the remake than Gantu did. I mean, it was bad enough when we found out they didn't have the cross cross-dressing aliens because Pleakley and Jumba make themselves look like normal dudes for most of their screen time, so they don't have to animate them, which honestly wasn't even the worst call when they made them look like this. And I mean, it's not like the remake is the worst movie ever made. There's plenty of things to like about it, but I just got nothing out of it except a strange compulsion to spend $75 in Stitch merch. And then you compare that all to like the How to Train Your Dragon remake, which is like literally the exact same movie. Like genuinely, I don't even know what they changed aside from giving like Snotloud's dad like 2 whole speaking lines. It is a scene-by-scene recreation of the original movie that's well made and is still better than like 90% of the shit Disney put out. It's just, I was really bored. I went to go see it just for this video and I came out of it with only 2 sentences to say about it because genuinely the only difference between these 2 movies is that the original now has a shaders pack. And again, maybe that's just me, okay? Literally everyone else I talked to had a really good time with it. I just think I'm not the kind of person that rewatches The Office and Gilmore Girls 47 times a week, okay? I'm not like the other girls. I mean, you can't really win either way. It's either you do what Lilo and Stitch did and piss off the entirety of Twitter, or you just plagiarize the whole movie like How to Train Your Dragon. And either way, it doesn't really matter because you're still gonna make $500 million. I mean, Disney aren't the only ones to make unnecessary live-action remakes. There was like a Ghost in the Shell adaptation that came out a couple years ago that everyone loved about as much as Disney's output, but I feel like the only cultural relevance that any of these have is just making it take longer to look up the original. But like, if you think Disney is bad, we're gonna check in on our boys over in Japan out here remaking every single anime ever made with $2,000 worth of wigs. I think a lot of the ones I've seen, like the live-action Death Note movies, these ones, not that one, I still like better than anything Disney's put out, but I'm still never gonna prefer these to a version that's more colorful and doesn't make me afraid for my life. Even if Netflix is famous for butchering more shit than a serial killer, I still had like fun with One Piece, but I feel like the only thing it has over the original is that it isn't 5 trillion episodes long. With a movie like Snow White, I see the value in like remaking a movie that's so old that the entire cast list is like an obituary, because it has some stuff in there that hasn't aged the best, okay? I call that shit Snow White and the 7-year age gap, but so much of the movie works because it's animated. Like a huge chunk of the movie is just watching the dwarves like bathe for 10 minutes, and it's great because you know that some guy had to handcraft that shit for like 14 years. And the same with Cinderella, because like while the gist of the plot still works today as a touching story of a dad trying to get his son laid, the original mostly lightens up the 80 minutes of straight domestic abuse with talking rats. And so in the remake, there was actually a lot of room for them to modernize some stuff, like losing the songs and making the fairy godmother actually a character. Ella even has a conversation with the prince before they dance at the ball, so it's not as insane that they immediately fall in love with each other. And I'm not gonna lie, that shit was actually kind of magical. I liked the remake way more than the original, even if I thought it was hilarious that they felt they had to explain away the name Cinderella.
Ella, what's that on your face?
It's ash from the fireplace. Oh, dirty Ella. Cinderella. That's what we'll call you.
Oh, girls, you're too clever.
Oh, we can't call her Cinderella, that's too silly, but we'll keep fucking Drizella. But like, these guys have a Moana remake coming next year that still stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson. So if we're just using the same story, the same designs, and the same actors, then like, literally, what is the point? Money. The point is money. Are you fucking stupid? It used to make a lot more sense that you get like do-overs of games a lot faster than movies, because these things went from like the graphical quality of PS1 Hagrid to hyper-realistic horse testicles in less time than it took them to remake Moana. But now it's the same. Like, you just get Naughty Dog giving us an annual remake of The Last of Us, where the only difference is that it costs more than the first time it came out 10 years ago. But with Snow White, if the dwarves are CGI and the animals are CGI and every single fucking background is CGI, then why are we doing this in live action if you're gonna animate half the movie anyway? It's the same with the Lion King remake, where Disney was too afraid to call it animated because then people were gonna think it's for kids.
Would you consider this a live action film or not?
You're not gonna use real animals. So this is the live action version of The Lion King.
I guess it's not animated, so if you have no other term for it.
Just because it commits to looking realistic but still has like talking and singing digitally castrated lions doesn't make it not an animated movie.
I just wanted to show you I could do it. That I could be brave like you.
They took my fucking balls, Simba.
But it's kind of funny that I think the best examples of what these should be comes from Disney themselves, when they first started doing these. Alice in Wonderland might be one of the most visually horrifying movies I've seen in my entire life, but I thought it was kind of cute the way that the movie plays out as if the original's already happened, but Alice doesn't remember any of it. Because like that way they get to use the same characters and concepts as if it was a remake, but also some new shit, like making Alice fucking fight a dragon to the death. Maleficent is like a $200 million Sleeping Beauty fanfiction. And even if I'm not sure if the world needed an 101 Dalmatians prequel with Emma Stone, it's still better than it just being the original again, because they already did that. twice. Even the fucking Mufasa prequel movie arguably at least has something different to offer, even if I'm never gonna watch that shit in my life. Like, I'm not even upset about the Lilo and Stitch sequel, because at least this way they have to do an original story, right? There's like no way these motherfuckers are remaking Leroy and Stitch, okay? And people are always like, why do they keep redoing movies that no one had a problem with? Why don't they remake bad movies? Because no one's gonna see that shit, bro. Disney isn't picking their most dog shit movies to remake because they want a do-over. They pick the ones that are gonna make them 87 billion in merch. But you wanna know what I think the real reason that these make so much goddamn money is, okay? It's because people don't have to feel embarrassed about watching How to Train Your Dragon as a 29-year-old man with kids they don't talk to anymore, because it's a real movie now. You don't have to feel bad that you're watching a movie for babies when it looks like a David Attenborough documentary, okay? So when Simba looks up at the sky and doesn't see the ghost of his dead dad, because that doesn't actually happen in the real world, you gotta think, like, is this better now that we're adhering to the boring-ass rules of the real world? Did people watch the original and be like, damn, this is pretty good, but I wish I had Seth Rogen as Pumbaa? There's no benefit to making it look like this, because the real world is fucking boring. What does making a movie about a talking elephant or lions hyper-realistic add to the experience? None of these were ever designed to look like they belong in the real world, and that's why it's always gonna look weird when you do shit like a live-action Cat in the Hat movie. How is turning Scar from one of the most iconic villain designs into a slightly darker regular lion better? Like, yeah, you make a live-action Beauty and the Beast, and yeah, big surprise, it looks fucking weird. That's why they animated it. Anyway, that's all from me this time. Thank you guys so much for watching this incredibly original video idea, and I will see you all next time. Have a good night, guys.